Okay, let's talk more about Tesla's robotaxi now. Joining us now, Kevin Paffrath, financial advisor and YouTuber Meet Kevin. Kevin, I know you were watching that event very closely as well. Now, you still have some Tesla in a retirement account. I know you have it, I believe, in one of your ETFs as well. So as an investor looking at that event last night, do you go out there and buy on this dip that you're seeing today?
Well, it is so tempting. First of all, thank you for having me, but it is so tempting because when you see a down 8% day, logic says buy. But the reality that we have to think about is, look, if we're soft landing and the US economy is going to be great for the next 10 years, this is the perfect vision that you want. This is the 2021 kind of vision that just takes stocks through the roof because everybody's got the Cathie Wood 5-year time horizon. And don't get me wrong, I love Cathie. But I'm really worried because Tesla just gave up its midterm recession protection. You gotta think that the people who buy Teslas are mostly 25 to 40-year-old guys in finance and tech. And they're the ones that have the biggest risk of losing their job from AI and the biggest risk of having hardship finding a new job should they get laid off. So your clientele is at big risk in a recession. You are already at flat year-over-year growth. You're plummeting in Europe in terms of growth, which happens to be where one of your gigafactories are. The Wall Street, actually, it was the Financial Times just showed Germany in potentially a 2-year recession. And so now you're in a place where you don't have a new product to help you survive the medium term. Why not introduce the Cybercab as for sale with a steering wheel and pedals, and it says fleet eligible in the future with the new hardware 5, and you can drive it with your steering wheel like normal. You know it'll be fleet eligible, and you can remove that hardware in the long term. That way Tesla could start mass producing these next year and actually generate some EPS growth that's substantial to justify this high valuation.
So were you, we talked about this, Kevin, with some other shareholders. I'm not saying they were expecting that Elon Musk was going to make some news at the event with lower price models, but they were really hoping for that, excited for that. Were you excited about that kind of new product?
I thought it was make or break. I thought if they didn't introduce a lower cost model that could be bought for the midterm, I thought that this essentially would happen and it could potentially start a downtrend. I was really hoping that they would have learned that when the rumors from Reuters circulated that, oh, we're not doing the Model 2 and the stock tanked in the spring, I would have thought logic would have told them, okay, the shareholders want a cheaper car. Just give it to them. If you can mass manufacture and you're such an expert in manufacturing, manufacture these cars, even if you're only going to do so for 5 or 6 years before robotaxis take over. Have that bridge to get you through a recession, because now what you've got are existing models and hope, and not much in between. That doesn't help you in a recession. And you were also right on to point out what Adam Jonas said, which is exactly what I thought at the event yesterday as well. The robots that were probably bolted to the ground and dancing in the gazebo that nobody could get close to, those are pre-programmed, likely. The robots that are walking around doing handshakes or playing rock, paper, scissors with folks, those are all very likely teleoperated. In fact, there was someone from Microsoft apparently on Twitter who was suggesting they asked and that they were teleoperated, but let Tesla verify that. And so you don't actually have AI in robots. It's very likely that the robo-taxis were not using the FSD that we use on the road. It was some form of pre-programmed circuit on private roads, which means you don't have AI there. And the robo-van was closer to the ground than China's economy, which means one pothole takes that thing out. Honestly, I think that van was mostly clickbait, like it's some form of chassis and a cool frame. It looked cool. I got 7 kids. I would love this van. I wish Tesla had a bigger van like this.
You have 7 kids?
Yeah, we had a little oopsies, and we messed up our fertility timing, and we ended up with twins
that's
that are about
probably
to turn
more than
1,
we need to
triplets.
know. That's probably more than we need to know, Kevin, but that's okay.
Sorry.
That is amazing. That's an amazing fact to know.
It's stressful.
So, listen, it seems obvious the way that you're laying out, the way that a lot of these analysts have laid it out, that this would be disappointing. Why do you think that the company didn't realize it needed to deliver more? Or is it just because that's worked for Tesla historically to go by this playbook.
Well, I think it's just sort of typical Elon character, and I don't actually see that as a long-term flaw. I think a visionary is typically going to be very stubborn about what they believe the future is, and I think that Elon is correct. The future is driverless. The future is everything he is doing. He is so right about the future, and I couldn't support him more. Just it's a little bit of a slap in the face in potentially a recession when you've got or near a recession when the Fed is flying so close to the sun that they cut 50 and yields tighten by 50. And we saw the treasuries all skyrocket. It's nuts. You're really tightening this economy a lot. And Tesla is an interest rate sensitive stock with customers that are going to be most impacted if we go into recession. So I think the business side failed here. The innovation side and the vision, I'm all for it. Do I think some of it was probably more show than real technology? Absolutely. But honestly, it was an exciting event for the vision, and it made me excited about wanting to be part of the stock more and investing in it. But honestly, I'll wait for like a 150 or maybe even a 100 handle on the stock before reinvesting.
Kevin, I'm curious, if the future is driverless, do you think Elon Musk has certain competitive advantages in that market, in that race to that future?
So the answer to that is sort of twofolded. The answer currently, like in a snapshot today, is absolutely. Tesla has a massive lead. But the irony that I think a lot of folks forget is that the better chipsets like NVIDIA's Blackwell or even the H100s get, the better these chipsets get, the easier it is for other companies to use NVIDIA's drive platform or other platforms and their compute to use less data, substantially fewer miles than Tesla has driven, and end up getting similar results. So interestingly, you're up against the clock. You know, I first got autopilot from Tesla 7 years ago, and I bought it because I thought it was the greatest thing ever, and I loved it. I've been using it for 7 years. But I remember 7 years ago thinking, wow, I won't have to drive in 3 years. Yeah, well, now my 2-year-old is 9 and I'm still driving. And I'm still taking over at knucklehead intersections that FSD just can't read the road signs on, and it wants to do silly things. It's getting further and fewer in between, but the reality is that moat Tesla has is shrinking, and it's shrinking fast.
Well, and Kevin, to your point, I mean, you know, we're not quite there yet, but maybe, you know, sooner than you're going to get a Tesla van to stick all your family in, you're going to get a Waymo maybe to stick your family in.
Well, I think you're right. I think in the longer term, the vision that Tesla's trying to pitch is, hey, everybody's going to be able to submit these vehicles to this sort of robo-taxi network. Honestly, I think in the future, if we're going to have robo-taxis driving around, I'm going to be brand agnostic as a consumer. An enthusiast, a Tesla investor is going to want the Tesla, but everybody else is going to open up an Uber or whatever. They don't care if it's a Waymo, if it's a Cruise, if it's a Tesla. They just want it to show up faster and cheaper. And so I think that pricing power in the long term really wanes because, I mean, you see it today, and I'm sure we've all done it. You open up Uber, what? 10 minutes away? Let me go on Lyft. And if that's 3 minutes away, I have zero loyalty to that Uber. I feel bad about that, but that's going to be how most consumers act. And unfortunately, that's just going to create a race to the bottom in terms of margins. I don't actually see robotaxi as profitable as people suggest it will be.
Kevin, always great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you both.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.